What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Best Podcast News and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And I am the host of the only online broadcast in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and I am the global chair of the Global Food and Drink Initiative, a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, wine, and travel. And to my right, I don't know where he is on your screen, I got Ryan Oneil Knight. What's going on?
I am doing well, always excited. This is the way to start the week with the morning vibe, get the frequency right. I'm one of the co-founders of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network, an organization that works with entrepreneurs of African Caribbean heritage to see where they're at with their business today and help them scale it up for the future. I'm also a business owner myself with a social enterprise called Detailing Nights. We provide mobile waterless car cleaning. We come to your house or your office and clean your car without any water and our plant-based cleaning products. But what I'm most excited with that program is we started a youth entrepreneurship division. So we teach youth coming out of detention or out of school how to start their own businesses so they're not out begging for jobs. They can create their own employment. So, and we are hiring right now. So
yeah, how's that going?
We're up to 3. So we're still waiting for like the full stay-at-home order to be released so that we can like jump deeper into the like the marketing. But yeah, we're training right now. This past weekend, we were able to train some more. We have 10 spots, so 7 are left. If you know somebody that has a high school student that is currently looking for a job, please send them my way. Would love to introduce them to entrepreneurship.
Good. What were you up to over the weekend?
This weekend, I was back at the milkman was in session. We were delivering milk and food. Yes, it's so I used to do courier delivery, and it threw me back to my roots where, you're just driving around, listening to the radio, having your what they call mobile university, listening to different YouTube podcasts and learning and meeting people in person and getting to give them stuff and seeing smiles, socially distanced, of course, but yeah, it's been too long where we just see people regularly. 1 or 2 you might bump into every week, but being able to see like 10 people in one day, it really boosted my spirits. So that was exciting. And Sunday, got to check out, lounge on the couch with the kids, watch some cartoons, build some Lego, build a puzzle, just go for a walk. Although on Sunday it was hot. But I loved it. We went to the splash pad. Listen.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If anything, I've done through the morning vibe, I've had Ryan now make a concerted effort to have Sunday as a relax day, because everyone who talked about Ryan, he's never stays still. He's always busy. I said, I'm going to change that. So I'm having some influence on him. As always, want to say shout out to Christopher Lawrence, our great core supporter. And he says, like the haircut? Yes, we like the haircut too.
Thank you.
And who did the haircut?
The missus. I gave her my trust and gave her the clippers and said, it got out of control. I trust you. Let's get to work. And she came through. So thank you so much, Mrs. Knight, Chair Time, for that. And quick shout out.
He also says #milkman.
Yeah, no, quick shout out. My wife, she does run her own business called Ebony Occasions. So if you're looking for Afrocentric greeting cards, check out ebonyoccasions.com. And thank you cards too.
And of course, ACBN says, great family timeout, Ryan. Nice. And then LOL, good trust, nice haircut. So you guys
appreciate it.
Look at that fan base. Well, we're going to get right into it, because if you haven't, you should be following Ryan on LinkedIn. He wrote an article last week that's getting huge amount of response. Like he's getting interviews, and he does hardly do media. I can't get interviews. I've been doing media for like 10, 11 years. I don't rate. So Ryan Knight is opening up his own media school, if you did not know.
Whatever. Right.
You're not?
Hey, if I want to be part of whatever this media, Black-focused media conglomerate that is going to come in the future, I am guaranteeing it because I want to be part of it. Yes, there will be something owned by us and controlled by us.
All right, this is good. Well, let's get to it today. We have another, new friend to me, but Ryan brought this gentleman to our attention, the family attention today. His name is Marlon Stephen. He's a serial entrepreneur and accomplished digital executive with many impressive executions and solutions as a result of client work. That said, Marlon's most proud accomplishments have come as a result of mentorship. In 2011, a young man who helped Marlon build his first company, NewNet. I remember that company now. I was thinking over the weekend, and had himself build an impressive career as a digital agency executive, asked Marlon to help him formally launch his previous side hustle, KPDI. In 2017, another of Marlon's former proteges who worked at Boom Digital returned from over a decade of building cinematic games, including franchises Grand Theft Auto and Max Payne. Okay. Amongst others, asked Marlon to help him found his own games company, Resistr Interactive. In 2018, we launched he launched KPDI Adventures, now Square Circle Ventures, to operate as an incubator. Since then, they are championing the development of Valence.community to unlock the global combined power of Black professionals to create massive economic and social progress. So the man doesn't stay still, as you can understand here. And let's bring him up to the digital stage for the first time. What is up, Marlon? How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Were you delivering milk over the weekend?
No. I was staying in air conditioning. I think I have a few more rounds around the planet than you guys. So I gotta make sure and take it. I gotta make sure and stay cool where possible.
Oh, cool. Well, look, thanks for taking the time to join us this morning. It's appreciated, not taken for granted, and looking forward to a really good conversation. I'm going to let Ryan lead on the conversation. Go ahead.
Well, before we jump too deep into the article, I wanted, because Dr. Vibe did mention Valence, and I find that platform so powerful in the different people I see in the workshop. Well, not just workshops, but like the different interviews that are being done with really accomplished Black professionals. So I wanted you to take some time to explain Valence and why people should be a part of that network.
Well, Valence is started in 2019 officially. Actually, it came out of a conversation that I had when we started the incubator, right? Because I never did an incubator before, and I wanted to figure out what was a good incubator, like what did it look like, right? So I kind of went to reconnect with a lot of the people that I know that built, they have venture capital firms now, they have incubators themselves, or they were part of some of those big ones, Y Combinator, those types of things. So I was trying to see how I could build that, particularly here in Toronto, right? We got started, we talked, hey, technology is now enabling us to close the gap, right? And these are folks who had previously built Black Planet, or, they had, their Revolt, they're on boards of Starbucks and those types of things. So that conversation, I came back home, went about building it, and then I got hey, we've launched the beta for Valence, right? And then I was like, yo, that's okay, this is a good start. How are we going to do what we're going to do? They had money, so they put about $2.5 million into the first doing the beta section. And then, last summer, it really started, right? I invited Ryan. I had, at the time in the beta section, you had to invite somebody to come, right? And you only had 5 invites. We started talking about it. I go, I really want to unleash this in Canada. We created the Valence funding network, which is some of the largest VC funds there, that those people can give you both advice and be a track if that's what you would like. Now, personally, VC is usually a last resort, even though most people who've come to me in the last couple of years think that it's the first. Essentially, we worked something out where we are now having Valence Canada. We're probably going to start with a Canadian company that actually operates in Ghana called Plendify. Right? They're looking to become like the Alibaba of Africa, right? It's started by a Rwandan Canadian, like born in Rwanda, came here, right? Him and his partner his technical partner was, investment bankers for the most part, or working in the investment banking space. And he then, hey, there's problems I think I can solve with a fintech. So he started that. They made a slight pivot. And, now we're going to kind of start the valence conversation by connecting yet another continent, right? Everyone, please, join Valence. It's a great space to be in.
100%.
We're still working on the kinks. They went off and bought Bevy, which I don't know. There's a start. Well, didn't buy it. They invested in Bevy, which is a kind of like online platform for doing events, right? I'm part of the National Angel Capital Organization here in Canada, right? And they had a summit, I think in May, either late April or May, and they were using software called Hopin, and I thought it was excellent. It did a number of things, like you could do speed interviews or like networking, with different people from wherever. Bevy has similar tools. And, I'm going to get, access to those tools with some of the kids that I work with. And hopefully we're going to put together a series of workshops and stuff like this so that we can, again, kind of make the world smaller, right?
Excellent. And
so that's one of the many things that we're doing outside of the government to really kind of ramp up the ability to actually get not just money, because capital is one thing, right? This is something that I said literally on Ryan's page, because I was really upset even at some folks saying stuff like, oh, well, we need more grants. Well, I'm not sure that's a good idea. It's like a lottery winner, right? I had a lottery winner in my family, right? If you do not know how to use that capital, right, you won't keep it. And I saw that. Trust me, I saw it very recently. I had to go deal with it. And he, it wasn't like change his lifestyle. He didn't, all of a sudden buy, Rolls Royces and stuff like that with his $1 million winnings, right? He actually was he was flipping houses. So first one he flipped $100,000 and it was good. You know what I mean? And he got greedy, you know what I mean? And he tried to go for something that's here. And the market wasn't good at the time, and you have to be able to wait things out at times, right? Because folks can do math, right? And they could know, well, if you're not getting any price, you're gonna have to end up letting it go for something that's advantageous to me. So you need to understand that. You need, it's not just experience, you know what I mean? There's a lot of professionals that if you don't take the time to learn things, they will take you. Right.
And we've seen that, definitely.
It happens all the time, right?
But I wanted to touch on, because you mentioned you're doing a lot of the Valence stuff outside of the government, a lot of the VC stuff and the angel investment stuff outside of government. And that was the main real point of the article, is now the government is using the Black business need to really prop up themselves. And if you go over the last 9 months, who's really benefited? No money has flowed to Black entrepreneurs' bank accounts, yet the government keeps getting to do announcements. So
a lot of that has to do, unfortunately, with some of us that benefit from that, right?
Interesting.
There are a few folks in our community that are literally giving cover, because when they make their announcements, they get lots of praise. Hey, great, you did this. Didn't do anything. It was an announcement. Right. And it's worse when, right, you are purporting to do something that you just don't actually do in real life. One of those, I have no problem calling out names. It's just one of the things is I don't want my ability to call out names because they can't do anything to me. Right. I'm totally outside of that system. Right. There are people that I work with, right, that still, get a check from them. And it it puts them into a situation, right, where it's very difficult to do any of this stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of them went off and started, organizations, not for profits, right? It's crazy, right? If like one of the things in business in general, Kelly Burton, who's also a friend of mine, did an excellent, disrupt this, what entrepreneurs need to do. She specifically talks about, and they only have this in the States. They don't have it here, even though I've, met with Justin Trudeau. I've met with other folks. I actually got a meeting early on with Minister Ahmed, not personal only. I'm at a table, right? Minister Ahmed, he was the immigration minister at the time, right? And he ended up putting who was then the finance minister and the chief innovation minister, which is a Brampton, Navdeep Singh, right? Payne Singh. I can never remember those names or anything.
Yeah, Navdeep Payne.
Yeah. And we were talking, and it was like what came up was 6 of the fastest growing economies on the planet at the time, 2018, are on the continent of Africa. Canada needs to literally develop trade routes there because as they're building their infrastructure, there's great technology that can now have access to that market or whatever else the case may be.
Right.
And they said that that's one of the things that they wanted to achieve, but there was no infrastructure for doing so. Right. And this is me now getting into that part of the market. Andrew. So
yes.
I got to tell him essentially, no, not right now. I'll tell him, but we'll talk later.
Yes.
Andrew's another company that is incubated, like the 2 companies that are incubated. At least one of them is just, if not way more explosive when he is giving his critiques than I, right? But I just want to make sure I didn't lose my train of thought. Where could you guys remember where I was specifically?
So talking with Navdeep Bains and Minister Hassan about them saying they want to open up something in Africa, but then really having no infrastructure to do so.
Exactly. So I started looking at what is the infrastructure. There's a startup visa in Canada, right?
Yes.
And you have to be a designated organization, right, to write a letter essentially saying we support this business coming here, right? It then, lots of people could literally bring their business or a core piece of their business here to start up. It's a good way of there's no Black run organization part of, by the way, NACO certifies. So the National Angel Capital Organization certifies those designated organizations, and also the venture capital arm. I forget what that organization is named, right? So I'm like, there's no one, because at the time he was the immigration minister, there's no one that I've seen of color or anything else that has that kind of, they'll have that vision to go there and create that there. Right. And, there was really no conversation about it. I had to do it on my own. So I went, sat with the NACO folks, paid my dues, joined. And I was surprised. Not really. I wasn't surprised. The BBPA, the organizations that currently exist, right? Or even the Johnny Come Latelys, right? You would think they've joined, right? Because that's how
they talk that talk. They say we want to open up trade routes to Africa and the Caribbean.
Well, this is exactly it, right? So there was no one there. In fact, there has been no one there of color except my organization. There's I may call out one name, like for example, Isaac, right? One of the early days we were sitting down trying to figure out, hey, can we work together? And from my perspective, no, right? Lawyers were trying to get us together. He has, he works with Faskin, big law firm down in Bay Street. And they really wanted me to work with them. And I didn't mind because there was a Black lawyer there. I tend to first exhaust so that my circle has more than just, they get skin in the game as well, right?
Yes.
And not all skin folk are kin folk. So essentially, we weren't working, and I thought, well, you're a tech investor, right? I had a great relationship with an Indian gentleman, Shadow Ventures. Just met him when I was doing a kind of Shark Tank type thing in DC with in Major League Baseball. This is also 2018, right? We met, we connected, right? And again, just our different paths, right? He's involved with there's an organization called TIE, right? That is, you can look it up. It's an Indian organization that got started to help businesses all over the world. It is a huge organization, right? Yeah. Of Indian from wherever in the diaspora that has been created. They teach entrepreneurship. They do all of the things that we're talking about doing, right?
Yes.
In fact, in most communities, there's some version of that, right? I remember when I was 20 years old, BDP has been around a while, right? They didn't have, I was a tech entrepreneur. I'm building NewNet, which is like an AOL type thing, right? I'm getting celebrated in the US, right? I'm meeting with Adobe, Apple at that time, right? Building things, right? And, home, that's not what's happening, except for very few, right? Some of them, if you remember that time, it was another kind of give out. Bob Ray was in power. And a lot of those folks working in not for profits were now all of a sudden driving BMWs and a whole number of things. And, it fell under the weight of all of that, right?
Yes.
I think that's what upsets me. It seems like it's just destined to fail again, because there's two components for capital is one component. Yes, you can. I went through a number of studies. Capital, access to capital, even when you are, well done, like you have a home, you have something that you could use as collateral, you can take debt financing, right? We don't necessarily get true value with the debt financing, right? But there's been also other tools that have come up, right? In 2016, both in the US and Canada, right, they created the ability to do equity crowdfunding, right? Equity crowdfunding is, first of all, it's highly regulated. That's what there's some people doing it. Do not do it with anybody that isn't regulated. There's a reason, right? The reason is non-accredited investors, their exposure, their investment exposure is limited, right? It's limited to, I believe, $2,500 for a specific company, or 10,000 period, right, in a year. Accredited investors, no such caps, right? But you can raise up to 1.5 million of equity financing, right? One of the things that, again, so you can design a program around that concept to have the community participate in their own development. At least that's where I'm seeing. And that's one of the many things that I'm building, painstaking. It costs some money to build out what is an exempt market dealer in Canada. It means basically you can, without a prospectus, right, sell or offer companies to bear. And what you should do, or at least what I'm going to be doing, is having angels offline, right, take a position and represent the crowdfunding platform, if you will, right, on the founder's board for a number of reasons, right? So that, it is building out the way in which the founder intended, right? Like, there's so much, like, to speak about entrepreneurialism and like, like the idea of giving resources, capital unconditionally is nuts. No one should do that, right? That doesn't make sense. Entrepreneurship is hard. It is not a substitute for a job, right? It just isn't.
Right.
Not everybody can be an entrepreneur.
Not everyone should be an entrepreneur.
Agreed, right? But not everyone should. And that's something that you learn. Like, even though I had NewNet, one of my first kind of real exposure to this VC startup life was because I did NewNet, really, right? I did NewNet. It didn't work the way I wanted to. It was way before its time, right? A number of folks, that's something Phil Vassell had told me specifically because I met with him first.
I interviewed Phil a few weeks ago.
Phil is the best,
yes, man,
and really has worked hard at trying to maintain stuff. We reconnected a few years ago in the incubator, and I told him what I was doing. But I get it. There's some things where I swing for the fences and I do things that seem impossible until they're done, right? And I'm not a fan of announcements. I like announcing it when it's done, because these things are hard, right? And having scrutiny or folks kind of coming in can derail it before it really takes shape, right? And even one of the hardest things a startup really has to do is both attract and groom talent, right? Like it is one of the most, that's actually what you need. When people say, I got $1.5 million or whatever, a lot of that is to acquire the talent. After $120,000, maybe more now, right? People really don't care about the money. It's like, well, what am I doing?
And why am I going to work with you?
Business? What is this business that's going on? And you can stock options. That's on the future. That's hopefully, hey, this is going to blow. We're going to do this. Right. But you have to, there's also entrepreneurs that will come to me and it's like, I'm not a salesman. I'm like, well, then you're not an entrepreneur. Like, you literally sell your business 24/7, right?
They're there to sell it to you.
The whole issue is that sales are the lifeblood of any business. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Whether you're selling a service or a product. At the end of the day, you are, as its founder, its main salesperson. You have to tell your vision, even if it's difficult. This is one of the most difficult things to do, to take the vision that's in your head, right, and make it real, right? There's a ton of things to get there. It's a dynamic vocation, right? Access to addressable markets. You know what I mean? Like, I there was a company that wanted to do a car sharing service, or like a Lyft, Uber, right? Just for women, right? And someone didn't want to say bad idea. You know what I mean? It's really easy for them to flip a switch and you could choose a woman driver on Lyft or Uber if that market need was determined. If you can showcase the market need, right, then your best exit would literally be, getting them to buy you, right? So it's sometimes where, and that's just my opinion. If someone wants to still, go and pursue that, that's their prerogative. What I'm going to do is try and assess, and that's the difference with my incubator. There's no 8-week, there's no, whatever time frame. It's not a set cohort, because that doesn't make sense, right? Different people are at different stages, right? At different stages of their company. What I'm going to do is try and understand about what their vision is, and then ensure that they actually have some of the pieces of their vision, right? Sometimes it's simply, hey, you're going to need these folks as advisors, right? I then go and sell the company to them. Hey, you really got to help these guys out, because essentially, I am sure, and this has happened the opposite to me, right? I am sure, right, we'll see some way of, because, different people have different motivations, right? That there will be some way to reciprocate going forward, but we have to do this.
We're going to take a short break from the Marlon Stephen Masterclass today on the Morning Vibe.
I got my pen and paper. How you mean? Don't mind me.
This is all recorded, so I'm going to refer back to this. Is a serious masterclass going on here. So we're going to take a quick little break and come back. And one of the questions I want to ask Marlon is, what is the government doing right in regards to us, and what are they not doing right? And I have a feeling the second one's going to get more content, but I'm just going to leave it there. So we're on the Morning Vibe with Ryan Oneil Knight, Dr. Vibe, and Marlon Stephen. We'll back in just a moment. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, and it is Black Canada Talking time. Black Canada Talking is a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes on stories, POVs that are of importance to them, or we showcase Black Canadians are doing their thing.
The real aspect of what goes on behind the walls or behind the fence is a totally different persona and a totally different picture.
There was just a big sense of relief when we finally got there.
We have to realize that everything we do is going to have an impact on probably a lot of people we don't even know.
One of the mandates of the CBC is to reflect Canada back to itself.
Not a lot of sustainable long-term movement that will affect economic change.
God bless, peace well, keep the faith, and walk good. All right, we are back, and that is one of the number of different online conversations I host called Black Canada Talking on every Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to get Mr. Steven on that because he needs to drop some knowledge bombs to some of our fellow Black Canadians. So, Marlon, coming back to you before we went to the commercial, what is the government doing right when it comes to us, and what ain't they doing right?
Unfortunately, there's not much that they've done right, simply because the intentionality. We are not unique in the challenges that we face. Like, there was some, again, great announcements. I was telling my friends in the US, look, the decade of people of African descent, acknowledging essentially that it doesn't matter where you are on the planet. If you're Black, you've actually felt the same issues, law enforcement, pushing you, lack of access to capital, right? My son is going to be 30 this year, right? He was born in 1991. At that time, right, apartheid was still, alive and well in South Africa. Right. At that time, I was in university, just leaving. And if you remember, the world was like, you had to force them to defund from apartheid. It wasn't like it was this thing where, everyone embraced Nelson Mandela when he came out and didn't, run roughshod over the country. Right. But it was something that you literally had to go and fight for at that particular point, right? There was laws on the books where you can't own property. I'm born in 68. So, there's Jim Crow laws and there's other things stopping you from having a business, if you get what I'm saying. And this is in colonial places too, because the 50s is when that happened. Right? It's not that long.
Exactly.
Where you have the opportunity even, right, to participate in entrepreneur. I always say this to folks. There's no such thing as a Black business. There's a Black owned business, right? Mm-hmm. And that is what I am looking to do, because the idea is, and I'm telling folks, yes, you hire folks who look like you, or at least, right, you build a pipeline coming after you, right? So that those folks can learn the types of things that you did. Those are the deficits, right? And you can learn that if you study it, right? There's people who've done it. They've done things in the US, yes, right? Like this, right? They've done programs where they're looking to fix it before we even start, right?
True.
That's the crazy part, right? Like, this fixed loan is not a good idea. Period, right? Because businesses, and they should really skew more to businesses that are already in operation, usually need credit lines, right? If you're a service type business, right, it's 60-day net, right? And the companies start, it's just like your own home, right? When money's scarce, if sales are down, right, you might, hey, I don't need to pay the cable bill. If we don't watch TV, that's good, but cable is now cable. It's a package. So yes, I got to pay that bill. I got to pay the light bill. I got to pay this bill. But there might be something else that you skimp on because it isn't a necessity, right? Businesses do the same thing, yes, right? Yes. If this is part of a program, that's the first thing that's going to get cut, right? It's not essential, right? So we have to start, it's not charity. It's actually, if done well, right, all economies move at the same time, at the same pace. There's something unique about Black folks, and you can call it supremacist, you know, whatever you'd like, right? The creativity, right, of the nuance, the swag, right? The thing that we will take something, you know, we created a genre of music by borrowing samples of other music recorded, right? That's done. That's how you orchestrated the whole thing, right? We learned that, hey, if we have the, you know, a lot of folks don't like Jack the Rapper, which was a conference, hip hop conference back in the day, right? All of the different clothing lines came after, literally, this was the name of the conference, right? Why, you know, it was like, you remember the Run DMC song where it's like, Calvin Klein is no friend of mine. I don't want no man's name on my behind, right? That line spawned Rockaware, Mark Echo, you know, a whole number of lines, right, that came out that obviously also weren't valued as much as other lines, right? Even though they dominated at one point, right, that part of the industry. Given the opportunity, that creativity matched with, you know, some fundamentals, I think can create real amazing opportunities. We're talking about a media, and again, globalization gives a whole set of new opportunities that I've pursued myself. In the U.S., she's no longer a young lady, Kathy Hughes, right? She, Urban One, you know,
know the name.
Of how she built that, right? They now
know the story.
They now own the NAACP awards, right? I was in talks with them, just simply saying, hey, streaming is an option, right, that we can now do, that you're not running cable, right? At the time, I was trying to talk to Datavio, who's now the CEO of Revolt, and I had multiple conversations to try to say, just like radio was, you know, like you designed the quiet storm and you found a hidden market. There is a hidden market by taking your platform online, right, and controlling online. Just imagine, even the Dr. Vibe show can now be a show on that and have another distribution channel. we like, you know, I look for that a lot, like BNC, right, which is the Black News channel, right, which I think it could be bundled, right, with a.
Isn't that with Mark Lamont Hill is one of the people on that, I think?
Bounce. I think he was on Bounce, which is another, again, in the US, sometimes, again, I'm a rogue, right? For me, it's addressable markets, right? There's 40 million, you know, Black Americans, right? The Caribbean isn't as fertile a ground, but a very fertile ground for talent, right? But, you know, Nigeria and Ghana alone, that's 230 million people, right? If now you're looking at those three markets, even Canada as 1 million, you just pick up one, like you think of the reoccurring income for like a Rogers is whatever, $100-$200 times 2-3 million, right? Where they have full package thing. That's where most of that money comes from. Sometimes you just have to look for new markets. If you think there's no one there, well, why are the Chinese making heavy investments
in Africa?
In different countries.
They own Africa. They own Africa.
They're working on it.
The weird thing is, you know, that no one has to own anything. I think the worst thing I've ever seen is that they own the toll roads in Jamaica. I'm not Jamaican, but
thank you very much.
That's literally asinine. And then again, that just shows you, right, that it has white supremacy does not only work on white folks, right? Or it's not just white folks. Unfortunately, sometimes that works on us, right? Like Ryan took up my challenge, which I know he does, right? I sat through a 2.5 hour presentation by the Fed talking about these specific things, a whole swath of things of how racism affects the economy and how to come back, they need to make all aspects of the economy work. So they're literally going back through the programs and stuff, that what works, what doesn't, that's what to throw away. They got folks coming in. How do we redo this the diverse supply chain, right? And yeah, I want everybody to see it, but everybody isn't me, right? If I'm intentional about going, it's just like anything else. I'm looking to make this into a business. Sounds nuts, right? Because it is to some extent, right? I'm looking to make this into a business. So I'm taking up every piece of information that I can. You know what I mean? I'm going to, yes, I have ideas, right, for the way in which I want to execute now, right? But like anything else, you course correct if the sales aren't reaching where you want to reach, and a number of other things. And these are, again, things that, you know, you do as a business person. A lot of the people that I came, they wanted to go from pitch to capitalization. You know what I mean? And it's like,
you're skipping a lot of stuff.
Yeah, like up to you if you want to go do that. You know, and the funny thing is, no, I don't just let them. I try to challenge them, right? Unfortunately, most people, you know, they watch The Social Network, you know, and they think they could be Mark Zuckerberg, right?
Actually, touching on that, because this program, actually, what you just said personifies what they've built. You're going from straight application to capitalization, where there's a lot of nuance in between that an entrepreneur needs to go through to be ready for that capital and to be able to utilize that capital effectively. And really, they're only tackling one area of capitalization. They're not even tackling the different types of capital that an entrepreneur could use.
$1 million goes really quickly, right? When you've actually built a successful business, right? So $1 million in revenue is nothing, right? And the fact that very few people reach that is concerning. You're not an entrepreneur if you basically are by yourself. If you don't have a payroll, you're not an entrepreneur, right? You're a self-employed individual that, you know, may be high net worth, but you're not an entrepreneur. You know, shareholder agreements, a whole number of things that you wouldn't think about are ridiculously important at that stage before you should get capital, because that shareholder agreement can end up kicking you out of your own company if it's not good, right? They're going to come with it. They've done this 1,000,001 times, right? They're going to protect themselves in that transaction. It's not just money you need. There's so much. It's hard. It's almost like and this is why the incubator is unique, right? It isn't coming from, I know everything. No, I literally listen to your business and I just want you to figure out with you, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen. I had this one young man that was using the office every weekend, you know what I mean? Because that's when he was doing school at the time. You know, he even got a gig teaching design, I think it was, right? Digital design at one of the not-for-profits, right? And they paid him, and, you know, and he was like, you know, you can pay me if you want a business plan. And I'm like, okay, cool, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? It was a music app or service that he wanted to design, right? So I called up a friend of mine who, you know, Trinidadian, but he has Minnie Riperton's catalog, you know what I mean, working on a number of projects. And I'm like, look, you know, are you good with, you know, giving this guy some advice on, you know, navigating the music industry? He's like, for sure. Never took up on it. When I was writing a report for what we were doing, right, you know, I wrote his name in the report, and all of a sudden he's like, okay. I'm like, no, well, I'm very transparent. Whatever you want to know, you know, well, how much money you get and how much am I getting? I'm like, nothing. You've done nothing yet. You know what I mean? You have no idea what your thing is. I've asked you to sit down with, you know, the accountant to even do projections to get where you want to get to.
Yes.
listen, and you have skills. Getting people to come every weekend and not get paid is a skill, right?
Very
But
true.
if you want it to grow, right? There's somebody's going to need to get paid, right? Because it at some point it stops being a hobby, right? And it's not good if you're it's like to say you have a business but you cannot live from that business is asinine, right?
Right.
And I've
It's
seen
backwards.
that a lot, right?
Yes.
No, that is exactly what it's supposed to do, right? There's two ways to create wealth. Two ways. Doesn't exist any other way. To create it, right? Well, obviously, if you inherit it, you didn't create it, right? There's not many people going to inherit wealth in our community currently.
Yes.
Right. But to create wealth, you either have to be an entrepreneur. There's no job that's going to get you $1 million. You might even make $1 million a year. You're not wealthy, right? That job done, I'm not sure you know how to navigate it the same way, right? The only two ways is to either invest in, right, or create it through entrepreneurs. There's no other way. Tell me another way, cool, right? Do it. I'm not going to argue. You hear like Kwame Brown is making noise all over the place right now, and he'll be, hey, I wasn't going to say nothing while they're paying me $60 million to ride the Payne. Screw you, because now I'm using that 60 million in the ways that I want to build my thing. Yeah. Yes. You know what I mean? And it makes total sense. Even me, like getting into this, right? I've had lots of ups and downs, right? But getting into this, it was like all I needed to do was there was a program, the Ontario Black Youth Action Plan. Yeah. And at the time, as I said, the young man that I was working with, I literally told them my story. These two young men and others, right, have benefited from my mentorship. I want to turn that into an incubator and start building businesses. They accepted it, right? 1.5 million over 3 years, right? Some stuff happened that shouldn't have happened, right? Nothing to do with me, but I told them they were fully aware. But I committed at that particular point to it, whether I got it or not. And that's how I met Andrew, for example, right? It was on like a kind of a speech where I'm like, look, I don't think within this community, that's great startup capital. 1.5 million over 3 years. That is great for anything, right? True. That's what you're going to need. So I took advantage of it. I identified the things that we do. Was able to build Valence in that way. I now have that platform. 17,000 people, entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, angels, engineers, you name it, it's on there. And it's that collaborate, right? I've done boosts with this young man. This is a young man named Zonta Owens. He got his engineer's degree, right? And he calls me, and the first thing he says is, in my household, I had 3 choices: doctor, lawyer, engineer. But I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And the first thing I said to him, well, that's because your parents love you, right? This is not something that you want to do, right? Just because you want to do it, right? It's difficult. Anyways, we talk every Monday along with Sheldon James, who's running Bay Mills Investment Group, some other, and I get them in on the call so that they understand how those negotiations, how you go from an idea, right, to fruition, right? And we have some big things coming. Like, yes, there's stuff that you guys are going to see, and then there's going to be stuff that no one sees until it happens. But and when it happens, it's like, wow, I didn't know that could be done, right? That's how we work. That's how I don't need any pats on the back, because again, sometimes that brings undue scrutiny on things that you need to get done, right? You don't take over a company, right, by telling everybody I'm coming to take over a company. You know what I mean? You just do it, right?
Do your thing and let your actions speak.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Well, I know that.
By the way, just the thing, Zonta, since then, right, has started a number of businesses and got pre-approved for a $2.5 million loan and he bought a 500,000 media business. It was doing press releases, right? And he's looking for others. He's starting this summer at Bain and Company, which is Mitt Romney. They're brilliant. They created Bain Capital, which kind of like bought things like Staples, wrapped them private, ramped up the amount of money that they made and made a whole shitload of money for folks. And they're still taking the ride as, in some cases, the largest shareholder of these major companies, right? So I love it, but he's literally doing this because he's also starting. Sorry about that. He's also, going to start Harvard on a 2+2 program because he's fully into the entrepreneur thing. And as I said, the things that this young man is going to do, he's 24 too, which is like, you know what I mean? The things that he's going to be doing is going to boggle people's mind, right? And again, that was Valence is how it happened. He just chose me out of a boost. I told him, as I told him, I said, it is difficult. It's not something that you should do for a job. It might be, again, my path is my path. It's unique because of even my unique upbringing. I get why some people are, have a low self-esteem. I've never been told anything other than I'm bright, right? And this is what I started in Trinidad. So till I'm 8, unfortunately, they rank you in tests and stuff like that. I was always first in test in the school that I was in. So coming up here, you know what I mean, at 8 years old, I'm a little galvanized of somebody tell me, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. It didn't permeate me. And because of issues that I was having at home, some of that boredom and stuff like that, my dad took me back down to Trinidad when I was like about 16. So I spent another 2 years there, very critical times before kind of having to deal with kind of like the North American way of being, right? I saw people just like me owning businesses, running the country, you know what I mean? All of those things. That's an important part of it because you have to really believe you can do, things before you do them, right? And so at times that's kind of the environment, the environment that I want to create in the incubator. You can't come to me, there's no bad idea, right? It's an idea we might have to work on a little longer, pivot or whatever the situation is. So that's what both the incubator is intended to do. There's going to be arms of it that will have capital up to 1.5 million.
Just before you wrap up, I wanted to ask you, so if we were able to pen a letter to the powers that be, to the government, whoever is in charge, and they would actually listen, like what would you ask them to focus on? Like what type of, I don't know if it's a program or just where focus should be. I'm curious your thoughts on like how do we direct them in the right way to support Black entrepreneurs?
Well, be more intentional. One, right? Work with the agencies that you're working with, period. Like the BDC was a good start, but they don't really move things along. Things like the National Angel Capital Organization. Claudio and Amanda, they put me and Sheldon together, even though we would probably gotten together otherwise, right? But they put Sheldon and I together, right? Use some of the infrastructure. We're not a charity, right? That was the problem in the first place, right? You gave it to not-for-profits that don't have the ability to build an ecosystem. The head of FACE, right, is a young lady that is, lauded for her social work, right? She hasn't built a business herself. How can you advise on economics? Most of those folks, I don't know them all, right? But none of them, right, have an extensive business career. Even the ones that are actually rich, they didn't create anything. Blackmail is their business, right? Like literally, when you think of what a proxy fight is, right? It's people on a board, which you put people on a board, right? There's one of the people who are taking most FaceTime now, right? That's his job, putting people on boards. However, he put on a letter to pledge hey, we need more people of color on boards. He runs his company. At the time that he made all of those statements, the time he organized all of those big, bold plans, he was the only person of color in his own company, right? He didn't have anyone on the board. There was no internship program. And God knows, if you called him, right, you ain't getting the call back. If a white kid called him, right, unfortunately, that's exactly what would happen, right? And unfortunately, those are the people who are taking a lead, right? And hey, the community trusts us. And if you look at when they make an announcement, they get lots of kudos. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And as I said, I committed to doing this work 2018, right? I didn't wake up with George Floyd. You know what I mean? I didn't all of a sudden see that I need to do something with George Floyd.
The epiphany. That was where my mind was going, and you. That's not
where it started. It started because there's a significant racial wealth gap,
and you see the gap, right?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. And you look at what an angel is. Angel investing is actually the highest internal rate of return. Right? Better than real estate, better than any other thing. Why? Because it's a little money. You put skin in the game. You take your experience to help navigate, that young company, right? To go and do what it's energy. You lose energy as you get older, right? That's what that young founder needs. Like seeing the things that Zonta is doing. I made shitloads of money when I was young, right? But I lost it too because, hey, who's there to help me navigate what it is? I'm a risk taker, right? So it's not like, when people talk about financial literacy, that's the first thing you got to figure out. What's your risk tolerance, right? Because it's different for different people, right? The wealthy barber works for one type of person, someone who's conservative, works at a job. There's no job for 20 years anymore, right? So learning and having entrepreneurial skill gives you that ability to build something. Your network is your net worth. As you can see, my network is pretty big, right? I literally don't even use LinkedIn Premium. They keep, hey, go do this, do this. I get offered jobs that are like ridiculous, but I don't, $400,000 a year is not enough for me because that mutes me, that does a number of other things. I've made millions in a summer. You know what I mean? In revenue and stuff like that. So it's like, and it's about understanding now what to do. Because yes, doing that, small team did that, right? Now I have to go and start replacing what I do so that it can expand. Because if I don't, right, if I get sick, literally, or anything else, that same business that I just created isn't there because I didn't finish creating the business. Right. Absolutely. I don't have those shareholders agreements. So there's tons of, and now there's so many tools. There's so many things coming online to help folks. Once you get in though, once you learn, because as I said, I started my own first business. It didn't blow me up, right? But it gave me an access to things where I was employee number 3 at hook.com, which got 26 million, and I could write my ticket. Hey, I'm home every weekend. Yes, you pay me $200,000 a year. You get my apartment in Harlem. Right. I'm living the life. And guess what? You don't even stop me from getting more clients. I ended up with tons more clients, doing a lot of things, but I got that entrance, right? There's so many people too that can tell you that same story, right? And a lot of us now are becoming VCs and being as passionate about this at that level. We're not here. We don't have banks that are specifically going to get a deal in a better way, right? There's not those things. Can we bring them? Yes. Again, These are things that I am now. It's like this. The last 3 years, it was like figure out some of the things that I can starting them, capitalizing them, getting them going, work. Square Circle Ventures, unfortunately, is there, but people aren't using it, right? It says It's 3 things. When you fill it out, it's like you fill out your name, email address. I return calls, right? I give you invites. I let you know how to get to where you need to get to. And, again, we're coming up with a facility where up to 1.5 million or 2 million in your equity, we do exchange equity, right? To start your business. We help you figure that out. We're not just there to roll. There's no set deal, right? It is all a negotiation. It is all, how do we get you going? There's going to be a lot of programs. Once they're launched, I'm proud of them. They're not launched yet, so I'm not talking about them. You know what I mean?
I hear that.
We need to end it.
Yeah, exactly. But as far as the government, learn more, right? Be intentional about it. There's tons of information. Learn it and then apply something to it.
100%.
So that is our masterclass for the month, given by Marlon. Marlon, and we need you back because part 2 of it is, what do we need to do?
Mm-hmm.
Because as much as many people want the government, they should be doing this, and this, we need to be doing our own stuff.
Oh, for sure.
I know you have a deep knowledge of what we need to do.
We have to clean up our own house, right? If you want to, engage, you really have to do that. And some of the gatekeepers aren't working in our best interest. They're working in their own best interest. And, I understand that, right? But we have to be clear, right? And intentional in all of those types of things as well.
All right.
Well, and that's where I touched on us owning and controlling, 1, our own media, 2, our own resources, because then the government they support what we've already built. Right now, we're asking them to build the thing for us, which is backwards. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Every time I sit down with you, you really open my eyes to, 1, I feel like I'm standing still because I realize I'm not really moving as fast as it's possible to move. And then where focus should be. And that's why I really thank you again for taking time to be with us this morning. But I took a lot from it. I have my notes, and I feel like I have my homework to do that'll support the Black community a lot more.
Well, so, also go to use the resources that are starting. Go to Valence. If there's
that's my first call.
You guys can get.
Plus, I'm gonna book some time with you.
Yeah, no problem.
No, I'm serious.
I'm all there.
Because I want to book some time.
Ryan has my number.
Oh, he's gonna give me your number.
Yeah, no.
Or I'm gonna shave his head.
I would invite that.
It's 24/7 for me. This is my vocation. This is what this is what now I'm stepping into. There are a lot of times, trust me, I didn't want to. You know what I mean? I was looking for who's doing it so that I can support them. Right. And I was disappointed a lot. Right. And when you're disappointed, you do what you do. Right. And that's what's happening now.
All right. Well, if you want to get in touch with Marlon, probably the best place to start, valence.community. Join it. I'm going to be joining it right after. Exactly. Plus, I'm getting my phone call in. Because you know what? Excuses are over. If you want to move, there's help out there. The best place for help is at the end of your own arm.
But then this is where it doesn't make sense. Valence exists.
But
then we built something new where it could have just connected.
Part two.
Marlon, I'm looking forward to it. Man.
Part 2.
Thank you.
Marlon, a pleasure. Ryan, thank you that was a masterclass today.
I'm telling you. Yes, we talked about the government, but like you said, part 2, where what do we internally as a community need to build for ourselves? I I will have a full notebook ready to take notes on that because I'm ready to get to work. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh, yes, you got your green detailing Knights tie on, right?
Yes.
Well, just like I said, Blacks need to control their media, their education, and their business. If you
That
can,
economic ecosystem,
right
yes.
there, if you have control over those three, you can move it forward. And I know you liked what I read off the other day, so I stick to it. And like I said, as the truth will set you free, but you're going to have some pain before you get there.
Agreed.
It's time for us to get some pain during the week. What's going on for the rest of your week?
I have some exciting meetings with some cities and municipalities and counties because we're working on some affordable housing projects. So a deadline's coming up to get a proposal to Minister Hussein's office about interesting ways to alleviate homelessness in Canada. So I'm going to be pitching to different cities how we can work together and reduce their wait list that is currently 3 to 5 years down to 0. So
I push you on that, and I think at the end of the day, we need to own land.
Agreed. Yeah, man.
That should be the end goal because gentrification happens to people that look like us because we don't own
where we are. It can't happen. Look at Parkdale. You can't push people out when they have an ownership stake in what they're living in. So
there you go.
Yeah, man.
All right. So and on Friday, who do we have on Friday?
Dr. Errol, it's not doctor, but honorary Dr. Errol Gibbs, the man who penned the Black Empowerment Manifesto. The manifesto is out. He is back to let us know how we can now dig into it, have community consultations, give our feedback. There's going to be great in-person and online conversations happening around how we can utilize this. I feel like it's a progressive blueprint for the Black community. So we're going to dig deeper into that. So looking forward to it as well.
All right. As always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, respect. Remember to give yourself grace. Thank you for Christopher Lawrence for watching. I know there's some other people that were watching. Didn't get your name. It's my head, not my heart. We will see you on Friday. Have an outstanding week. And we will definitely have Marlon back for his next master class. All right. Take care, everybody. Be well.